Good evening, everyone. This is a public meeting of the Lowell Zoning Board of Appeals for August 12, 2013. Before we get started, I'd like to remind everyone that if you plan on speaking on behalf of a petition, that you please sign in at the podium with your name and address before addressing the board. Tonight, our first order of business, the board has been requested to go into executive session to discuss strategy regarding pending city litigation, public discussion of which may have a detrimental effect on the litigating position of the city. So with that said, are we going to vacate the room and move into executive session? So just as a point of clarification for everyone, the board members will be leaving the room temporarily. We'll be back and we'll commence with the proceedings this evening. Thank you.
You just need a roll call vote.
Just going to ask that. So if I could have a roll call, please, go into executive session.
Mr. Bailey.
Approve.
Mr. Belanger.
Approve.
Mr. McCarthy.
Approve.
Mr. Peck.
Approved.
Mr. Perrin.
Approve.
Okay, thank you very much for waiting patiently. We're going to reopen the public meeting. Our first order of business before the board will be under other business. This is an amendment to prior approval. The applicant is seeking an amendment to a prior approval of the board for the following project. This is ZB 2013-3. The petition was a variance. The applicant was Pierre and Laurie Guay, property located at 14 Holbrook Ave. Petition to reappropriate the existing lot line between 14 and 18 Holbrook Ave and construct a new single family without meeting minimum lot area requirement pursuant to Article 5, Section 5.1 of the zoning ordinance. Attorney Gary, good evening.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, my name is Stephen Geary. I represent Aspenwood Builders and Mr. Frank McCabe, who is the applicant in this project. As you know, they're probably around 60 to 65% complete of this project, and the request tonight is just an amendment to the face of the exterior of the building facing Andover Street. Originally, the plans submitted to the board for approval were the flat front colonial. Since that time, Mr. McCabe had looked at the various houses on Andover Street and decided that at his expense to put a three-dormer front on it as opposed to kind of the cookie-cutter look would look much better. It cost him money, but it's going to make the property more aesthetically pleasing, more marketable. It fits right in that corridor as it is now. Looking at the two plans side by side, it's almost a no-brainer to say that the three dormers looks far better than the plain front kind of cookie-cutter colonial look. So that's really all he's doing. There's no request that we're asking for any dimensional relief or anything like that. It's just basically aesthetics, the outside of the property. It does not increase the square footage in the inside at all. It's just primarily to make the house, give it a more stately look. And I think by going by that on the way here this evening, it certainly accomplished that. So I'm asking just for that minor amendment. And my client wasn't even sure if he needed the board approval for that, but out of an abundance of caution, we decided to, because we submitted that prior plan, to put everything before the board and ask for your approval. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Sure. Any comments for any of the board members?
Yes, to you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Geary, where does this stem from? Is this for a recommendation from planning and development, or 'cause I love it, but I'm just wondering where it comes from?
Yeah, no, I think it was. I think it may have been his framer had said, you know what, it's going to look a lot better here on the street is three dormers. I think he originally said two dormers, and then that didn't quite look right on paper, so they did the three, and they said that, makes it look a lot better on that corridor. I think that's, kind of where it started. And then my client just said, you know what, it's just going to make it more marketable, and it's going to really look good there, so he decided to do it. There wasn't enough time to come mark it up for a hearing and have the framer freeze everything because he goes on to another project. So he did want me to apologize on his behalf for kind of doing it and then asking for relief, but it was one of those fluid situations where the developer, the framer was there and had to finish his job to go off. I mean, if it wasn't approved, certainly he would go back to the old stage, but I don't think that would do anything but make the project less appealing than it is. And I think it's going to look very nice there when they're done. It's really fitting in nicely to that lot.
I agree. I think it's much more conducive to the neighborhood, but I really commend the developer, Mr. McCabe, for basically taking something like this into his own hands and costing him more money. You just don't see that. I haven't seen that in 10 years on this board. And
well, he's hoping to get it back when he sells it.
well, I commend him, and I think it looks great, and I support it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, is the intent to increase the living area on the third level?
No, it's just and that's the last question I asked him tonight. It's just aesthetic. So if you look at the pitch on the roof, it had that pitch anyway that kind of welcomed the dormers. So I guess when you walk up to the third floor, it's a walk-up third floor. When you walk up there, it brings more light in from the inside, but it doesn't. You can't really sit in between those dormers. So from having built houses, I can tell you that it probably would increase the square footage, maybe 3 or 4 square feet each dormer, but there's not usable square feet, if you follow me, and the inside. So the floor plan's still the same. It just knockouts, 3 knockouts, and it's really for the exterior, for the outside, but it does bring more light in that third floor for whatever reason they may use it, as opposed to just the shed, the shed dormer coming down. It kind of does look like a cookie cutter, and I think there are enough of those already on Andover Street on the newer version, so he wanted something different to, make it kind of fit in, but different from the newer construction that he's seen.
My question was more the house itself, is it going to have a finished third floor, I guess? Is the third floor going to be a finished space?
I think that may be up to whoever buys it. It's definitely a walk-up, what he told me, it's a walk-up third floor.
Okay.
By looking at it, I can tell you that I don't know what it could be used for, except maybe an attic walk-up attic. Maybe it's something that somebody will change into a room, but I doubt it because of the way the walls are. I think it's more gonna be just attic storage, but walk-up attic storage.
Okay.
That's, looking at the pitch, and I'm only getting that from myself looking at it. I haven't discussed that with my client, so I can't answer that completely.
It looks beautiful on the outside, it's just that if it's finished space, it looks even better, so
Yeah,
that's all I
yeah.
was getting at.
I
Thank you.
think that's maybe to his benefit to do that, if he can. It's certainly a big enough pitch where you could do that.
Any other comments? Hearing none, anything else you want to add, Mr. Geary?
Nothing, just, again, on behalf of my client, just respectfully ask that it be approved, and he did want me to apologize for coming late, but it was that's the only way it could happen.
Right.
So he had to make that decision on the fly, so we'd appreciate any consideration. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sure. Yeah, I know, speaking for myself, I go by there either Saturday or Sunday every week, and every week I see more improvement, and I have no issue with the amendment. Joe, do we have to take a vote at all on this, or are we?
Yes, it would be a vote to find whether or not it's a substantial material change, whether or not the change constitutes that, and then whether or not to approve the amendment as presented. So there's actually 2 votes.
So could I have a motion, please?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, the matter before us is EB 2013-3 for a variance at 14 Holbrook Ave. I make a motion to approve the alteration, the design elements of a new single-family home, specifically number of dormers utilized in the proposed dwelling.
Can I have a second?
Second motion?
Roll call?
Mr. Bailey?
Approve.
Mr. Belanger?
Approve.
Mr. McCarthy?
Approve?
Mr. Peck?
Approve.
Mr. Perrin?
Approved.
Okay, Attorney Geary, been approved. Wish you best of luck with the program.
Thank you very much. Thank you, members.
Thank you.
Is something I need to sign, Joe?
Okay, our next matter before us is under continuances. This is EB 2013-16. The petition is a special permit and variance. The applicant is Hazelwood Hopkins, sign permit consultant. Property is located at 732 Rogers Street, and the petition is to install a new freestanding sign for an existing auto dealership pursuant to Section 6.3 of the zoning ordinance. Good evening, Ms. Hopkins. How are you?
Good evening.
Missed you at the last meeting. And,
Thank you.
So I know you've made some changes per this board's, I guess, recommendation.
That's correct, and through your clerk, we've submitted a new drawing that would show the existing ground sign that you're very familiar with, basically refaced, not altered in height or size, or certainly not moved in any way. The sign maker is able to retrofit the structure so it'll look like the new branding. It'll have an aluminum face with cutout letters and will look essentially like the sign that we had originally submitted, except as you well know, the existing sign is smaller. It's about 53 square feet. The pole will be covered with aluminum as well, so that it will blend in with the new aluminum sign face. And the message center freestanding sign will remain as it is. So in essence, we're withdrawing the discussion for the 30-foot, 100 square foot new sign and asking the board to consider altering the existing sign, which already has a special permit from this board.
Okay. Anything else you want to add at this point?
Just that you'll find with the new look,
Yep.
there'll be much less light emanating from the sign box. The existing sign has a white translucent face, but the new the new Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram look is to have an aluminum face with cutout letters, so only the graphics illuminate. So that will cut down, I know the board is interested in illumination, it will cut down on the light that passes through the sign.
Okay. If you have nothing to add, I'm going to open it up to the public at this point.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone here like to speak in favor of this petition? In favor? Favor? Hearing none, that portion of public hearing is closed. Anyone like to speak in opposition? 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 Hearing none, that portion of public hearing is closed. I'm going to open it up to the board. Dennis?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I think this is a huge improvement, and I think especially with the idea of the cutout letters, the visual at night will be enhanced greatly. It's a nice update. I'm a little disappointed we don't have a graphic to
Please
illustrate.
submit them, sir. I have something else I can give you tonight if you'd like to see it.
I'm sorry, Joe, I don't know if I got a graphic, maybe I did.
Yeah, an email was sent out to the board of the updated
Okay.
graphic that showed the message board to scale with the proposed sign.
And so this is, okay.
I can submit that, sir, if you'd like to pass that among the members. May I, Mr. Chairman?
Sure, absolutely.
This is the new sign face, in essence. It's the old sign.
Yep.
And the message center will be right where it is, just like that. But these would be the colors of the graphics and the aluminum face.
Yep.
Okay, so the installation then is a resurfacing,
That's correct. We call it a retrofit, but resurfacing is similar.
and the way the resurfacing is fastened, is it done with exposed fasteners, or how
No,
is it?
no.
So
There's a
everything's concealed?
retainer on the sign, and it'll be held by the retainer.
And the existing illumination system will remain in
It
place?
will remain, only there'll be less light coming through.
Okay,
It's just too large a sign to retrofit with the LEDs. I know this board likes LEDs, and I asked that question. But you will get less light, and I think that will please you.
oh, by far, it's a huge improvement. Okay, thank you very much, no further questions.
Yeah, thank you, Dennis. Van?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All I have to say is thank you to the petitioner for all the updates and being so compromising with the plans. So I appreciate you working with us to come up with a final solution. Thank you.
I'll relay that to the owners.
Okay, thank you, Van. Gary?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate your efforts in moving forward with the height and the reduction in the square footage and coming up with an alternative plan that I think is viable for both the customer and the city, and still allows the petitioner to have that access of lighting and everything else in fair competition to the other vendors on that thoroughfare, which I travel very frequently. I think the improvement of the sign in the modern fashion, the retrofitting, I think is a fabulous idea as far as using existing structure. Although you are correct, we do like to move forward in the LED lighting, but we understand that it's a give and take, and you've come to that compromise, and that's greatly appreciated. And I know how important it was to keep that existing reader board.
Yes.
Particularly once you have a reader board, it's very difficult item to lose as far as a marketing plan goes. So we appreciate that square footage being taken into consideration. So I do support this. I wish you the best of luck, and I want to thank you for your efforts, and I hope you had a great vacation.
I did, thank you, and I'll convey your comments to Mr. Ganchi.
Thank you, Gary. Corey?
I'm in agreement with my colleagues, Mr. Chairman. I mean, although I did support the petition originally, I feel, on this busy strip, we need to help businesses in any way we can. But the other board members are satisfied. I think it looks great, and I support it. Thank you very much.
Okay, and so I guess based on this board's review of the project a couple of different times, and one of the things I appreciate that you've been able to work with us to try to come to a resolution. We as a board understand they need signage out there. They need to do their type of visibility. But for instance, knocking down the height from 30 to 20, I think for a lot of us that was key. And then also overall, we're reducing the size of that sign. I know for myself, I'm going to vote in favor of this, and I appreciate your assistance with it. Any other comments? Hearing none, could I have a motion, please?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, matter before us, ZBA 2013-16, at 732 Roger Street for a special permit. I make a motion to approve.
Second the motion.
Could I have a roll call? So this will be for the special permit. We'll do the special, right?
Sir, I don't believe we need a variance at all now, just the special permit. Is that right, Joe?
So, Joe, let me defer to you on that.
Sure. The request for the variance for the height is no longer needed, so the applicant could request to withdraw that without prejudice. And then the board could then take action on the special permit for an approval.
Okay.
So there should be two votes, one on the special permit and then one on the variance, which the variance at this point would be to allow a withdrawal without prejudice.
Does the applicant have to request?
I do so request to withdraw the request for the variance for the height and size without prejudice, please.
Okay, so the first,
Sure, I can consider the first motion as toward the special permit, yeah.
so can I have a vote for the, did we get a second?
Yes,
Have a second on the
Second the motion.
Okay, can I have a roll call?
Mr. Bailey,
Approved.
Mr. Belanger,
Approve the withdraw.
No, we're doing the special permit.
We're doing a special permit? Approve.
Mr. McCarthy,
Approve?
Mr. Peck,
Approve?
Mr. Perrin.
Approve.
Okay, so could I have a motion on the variance, please?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, the matter before us, ZB 2013-16 at 732 Roger Street. I make a motion to approve withdrawal of a variance without prejudice.
Have a second?
Second motion?
Have a roll call.
Mr. Bailey,
Approve the withdrawal.
Mr. Belanger,
Approve the withdrawal.
Mr. McCarthy,
Approved withdraw?
Mr. Peck,
Approve withdraw?
Mr. Perrin.
Approve the withdrawal.
Okay, Ms. Hopkins.
Thank you very much.
I think we got everything squared
I
away.
think so.
Appreciate you working with us, and I hope you have a good evening.
Well, I appreciate this board as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next matter before us is under new business. This is ZB 2013-25. It's for a variance. The applicant is the City of Lowell. Property is located at 251 Mount Vernon Street. Petition to install 10 parking spaces that do not meet setback requirements from lot line and building as part of a settlement agreement pursuant to section 6.1.1 of the zoning ordinance. Good evening, sir. How are you?
Good evening. Oh, sorry, I'm not used to being at this podium. Good evening, I'm Craig Thomas with the City of Lowell Urban Renewal Project Manager. I'm here tonight in a somewhat unusual role requesting a variance on behalf of the city The reason this has come in the way it has is that the city owns currently the unoccupied stone building on the rear of the Stocklosa School site. This building is part of a legal settlement to be reused by a third party who's here tonight with his architect if you'd like to ask questions about the reuse. But the city, as the current owner, is requesting a variance that we've committed to in our legal settlement while we're still the owner to then transfer the building and the variances to the new owner to redevelop the site as commercial space. At the moment, it's proposed as artist music studio space. The parking variances, as you can see from the site plan, unfortunately, we tried to get the overhead to work, but technology has thwarted us again, is for the area on the southern side of the building. Currently, there's a small cross-hatched area adjacent to a City of Lowell parking lot associated with the Stocklosa School. That is proposed to be expanded. The curb line will be pushed back towards the building to accommodate 10 parking spaces, one of which would be a van-accessible handicap space. The variances are required for the setback off the lot line. As you can see, the spaces are proposed to meet the lot line on the southern side. The feeling is, and I reviewed this with our traffic engineer, that those spaces are safe in that configuration because they abut an adequately wide travelway in that parking lot so that the movements in and out of those parking spaces could be safely accomplished. In addition, the second variance may not be immediately obvious, but it's for the setback from the building. We're required to have 5 feet, and we have somewhere between 8 and 6 for most of the length of the building, except one space. And it's hard to describe, even when you see the building, that it's almost 2 buildings that were built together with what we commonly call now a firewall in between. That wall projects on both sides out from the building. On the southern side, it projects to within 4 feet of the proposed parking spaces. Again, I apologize for the lack of the electronic visual, but hopefully that's clear from the site plans we presented.
So I know in the very beginning when you were describing the site, did you say someone is going in eventually into the site?
Yes, that site is, and this variance is actually a part of the Stocklosa School redevelopment. It's been ongoing, obviously, for quite some time, but we are working with a former property owner who used to be on the site of the Stocklosa School, who will move back in there once the city is in a position to complete the elements of the legal settlement, to then sell for a nominal fee back to the displaced property owner to be able to reestablish their business on that site.
And this is the Turcos?
Yes.
Yep.
I believe Tori's here.
Okay, good. Okay, anything else you want to add at this point?
No, I'm happy to answer any questions if you have questions about the parking arrangement, how we've got to this point, or if you want to ask the architect or Mr. Turco about their plans.
Okay. I'll going to open it up to the public if you have nothing at this point. Anyone here like to speak in favor of this petition? In favor? In favor? Hearing none, that portion of public hearing is closed. Anyone like to speak in opposition? 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 Hearing none, that portion of public hearing is closed. Going to open up to the board. Dennis.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I think that this layout makes a lot of sense. I'm trying to work through the dimensions here. The drive lane is required to be 22 feet in the UM. What district is it? UMU district?
Yes.
And is it in excess of 22 feet? Is it about 24 feet on the plan?
I don't recall the exact dimension, but I believe when we reviewed it, it did meet the minimum requirement for a 2-lane drive lane there.
Oh, it does. I think it's in excess, actually, of what's required. I think you actually went to 24 feet, which I think is a better dimension because of the adjacent parking lot that uses that lane to go in and out. There is a light pole that exists there that would be relocated. Do you have a location for that?
No, that would be a part of the redevelopment of the site, which would be post-transfer of the property from the city to the Turcos. I don't know if you'd like to answer that, or that could be worked out at a future date. We're still working through the final site redevelopment. We do have some plans, but that would be negotiated with the Lowell Historic Board as a part of the Historic Board permitting.
Okay, because when you do this parking so close to the building, there's not a lot of room for a pole and negotiate a sidewalk as well, so I'm just kind of interested in that. And then I noticed that you have a ramp that you're adding to the far side to accommodate the handicapped accessibility side. Okay.
Yeah, I reviewed that with planning staff, and that does encroach closer to the lot line south than the building did previously. But the thing was that ADA accessible features are exempt from the setback requirements to a certain extent.
Got it. Okay. And would you be redoing any curbing at the entryway? Because you've got that first parking space coming off of Mount Vernon. basically deeper than the curb cut. So the first parking space comes into maybe it's a 27-foot wide drive lane that currently exists. So are you anticipating any modification to the existing curb cut?
We had not anticipated one. Again, through our review, we thought it could be accommodated, potentially through a motion that went around through the drive lane and came back the other side. But we'll review that again. We haven't completed the site negotiation, but we know that these two variances are needed to place the parking in that location.
Okay, I think that makes a lot of sense what you're doing here, and I agree that this fire wall between the buildings is really kind of a moot point. It's not a big deal. But I just think you need to fine-tune this parking lot, but I'm sure you will get to that eventually.
And we're happy to take input as we continue this conversation to complete the closing of this property.
Okay,
We'll really take this under advisement.
very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Van?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I just have one quick question. Out of the 10 spots, are they just all, like for compact cars, are there any handicap spots, or is it?
No, we were able to actually get full-size parking spaces per the UMU requirements, which is what necessitates the variance. We considered at some point compact spaces at least around the wall that extends to try and negate the need for a variance, but it simply didn't make sense, both for the agreement that we have and to try and support the recreation of a healthy business on that site. And just for the compact spaces we found across the city, you have to be careful of where you put them and sign them appropriately, otherwise they're misused and they can become a problem.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Van. Gary?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I do like the proposed parking as it stands, and I'm appreciative that you went with full-size parking spots as opposed to compact sizes, although I do believe my colleagues agree, we wish we had more compact cars for environmental impact. And as it relates to the curb cut brought up by my colleague, we'll just look forward to that redevelopment site plan, so I support the motion.
Thank you, Gary. Corey?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, my concerns were raised by the other board members, but now, Craig, I believe we approved this building, I'm going to say 5 years ago. That's a long time ago. What's been happening since?
You have a very good memory, Member Belanger. The previous approval from this body was for the use. I actually had to do some research in preparing for this to correctly fill out the prior ZBA application history to explain what we're doing now. And in one version of the zoning code around 2003, right before the comprehensive change in 2004, there was an ability for certain kinds of uses in mixed use and residential zones through a use special permit, I believe. Something to that effect. That was granted by this body to accommodate the same use that's proposed now, the reestablishment of artist music studios on that site. That was then reaffirmed, I believe, in 2006 or 2007, Joe, I can't remember the...
Yeah, I think 2007. Yeah.
2007, so it was a 2003 approval that was affirmed in 2007. We were trying to decide if that approval would still be alive through the Permanent Extension Act, to get a little hyper-technical on you.
Quite an extension.
Yeah, well, again, because as long as it was alive after August 2008, it would have another 2 years tacked on, actually 4 years at this point. But when looking at it, we decided what the most appropriate strategy for the site, because as part of our settlement with the Turco family, we're trying to help them reestablish a successful business there. So instead of having a special permit for a specific use that may change moderately over time, we wanted to actually rezone it, which was accomplished, I believe, in my time here. So the middle or late 2012, we rezoned the entire part, Stockless School site as the UMU, the Urban Mixed Use District. The thing was it was done to extend the zone in a way that we thought in context made a lot of sense, in that for this building and the parking lot adjacent, that was the most appropriate zoning, as well as for the school site, the redevelopment potential there is essentially none in the near and middle terms. So that zoning change would really have the effect of creating a legitimate operating environment for this business or similar businesses.
Okay, I mean, I support the parking wholeheartedly. I just, would like to see some action in this building, as I think you all do, and I just hope we can expedite it, get the boards off this building, get this thing looking good. So I'm anxious to see the finished product here, that's for sure.
I appreciate that, and we've worked with the future owner's architect to give some preliminary drawings to the Lowell Historic Board, and we've actually we're relatively close to an agreement about the way we'll install the windows, how they'll look, what the timing and phasing of that will be. So hopefully in the near term, you'll see some action over there.
I hope so. I look forward to that process. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, you just stole the chairman's thunder. Yeah. No, I thought I read something about the historic relevance, so is it considered a historic site? Is the,
I'm not sure if it's individually listed as a National Historic Site, but it is within the Acre Historic Review District, which is an in-between review district. There's the downtown district, which has very tight discretionary review, and then there are the neighborhood districts that have discretion by the Historic Board. I mean, for new building and demolition, the Historic Board has review for anything that changes the facade of any building within the area. So this would fall under that design review.
So that's what was going to prompt my question, if it was a historic site, and you mentioned about the exterior, if they're going to run a commercial, I'll call it enterprise out of there, signage on the building, is that something that goes before the historic board, or is that anything that we have to entertain at this point?
That's an interesting question. That's not before you now. Signage, I don't know if Joe wants to weigh in these days.
That would go in front of the historic board.
Yeah, well, I assumed it did. I just wanted to make sure I read it correctly. It was a historic site.
Yeah, anything in the downtown, the acre districts are supposed to go through the historic board.
Okay. And my last question will be, Joe, are we taking one vote on this variance, or do we have to take two separate ones? Because it's the way it's outlined here. You know, dimensional variance from minimum parking setback from building and dimensional variance from minimum parking setback from lot line. Is it two, or are we taking one that'll encompass?
It wouldn't hurt to take two. I think one would cover it since they're the same type of variance.
Just like to listen to Gary talk. Right? Yeah, okay. Okay, no, I'm in full support of this. I guess I kind of felt what Dennis brought up about the parking without any type of sidewalk there, but I understand why we're doing that. So with that said, if there's any other comments at this time, hearing none, so if we can take, I'm going to take two votes here. So Gary, you all set for the first one? Yes. Have a motion. Have a motion, please.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, matter before is ZB 2013-25 at 251 Mount Vernon Street. Make a motion to approve a variance for dimensional variance for minimum parking setback from the building.
Have a second?
Second the motion.
Have a roll call?
Mr. Bailey,
Approved.
Mr. Belanger,
Approve.
Mr. McCarthy,
Approve.
Mr. Peck,
Approve.
Mr. Perrin.
Approve.
Okay, so could I have a motion on the second variance, please?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, the matter before is ZB 2013-25 at 251 Mount Vernon Street. I make a motion to approve a variance, a dimensional variance for minimum parking and setback from lot line.
Have a second?
Second motion.
Have a roll call?
Mr. Bailey,
Approved.
Mr. Belanger,
Approve.
Mr. McCarthy,
Approve.
Mr. Peck,
Approve.
Mr. Perrin.
Approve.
Okay, Mr. Thomas, been approved, both variances. Hope everything goes well. I'd like to wish Turcos best of luck with their future endeavors. Yep.
Thank you, Board.
You're welcome. Thank you. Okay, our next matter before us is ZB 2013-22. This is variance. This is for Rita Anadar Gizzo. The property is located at 154 Perry Street. Petition to construct a new 3-car garage with living space above without meeting TTF dimensional requirements pursuant to section 5.1 and 11.2 of the zoning ordinance. Hi, how are you? If you could introduce yourself, please.
Hi, my name is Rita Gizzo.
Okay. And so you're here before us for a variance. Could you tell the board about what you'd like to do over there?
Yes, our intentions is we would like to see if we could get an approved on doing a 3-car garage and above doing living space, like a 3-room and a small bathroom if possible. Because I have my grandchildren over every other weekend and once a week. And then my son is back home, got divorced, and we need the space for the kids to have their own playing room, their own sleeping room. I have two of them sleeping in a bunk bed at the father's bedroom, and I have the baby sleeping in my bedroom on her crib. So I feel it's kind of tight for them, so I wanted to extend a little bit to be able to give them the comfort.
Okay. I guess tonight, trying to get my paperwork in order here. Tonight, we were given some updates to your plans. I know I visited the site. I took a ride by.
Okay.
In fact, I parked right out in front there. Got a nice looking home there.
Thank you.
But I know when I read through when DPD, when the city took a look at your plans and stuff, they had quite a few comments on, I'll call it, basic requirements
Okay.
of submittal of paperwork.
Uh-huh.
And I know tonight we were handed, here it is, we were handed some updates. I assume you're familiar with what we received tonight. Okay. So I guess the first thing I'm going to ask is, Joe, can you just, I guess, hopefully quickly, just update the board. What items might the petitioner still be missing at this point in order for the board to take a fair and a reasonable review of this petition?
Sure. Actually, the petitioner actually approached me before the meeting. I believe she has some pictures for the board to review.
Yeah, I have some pictures that
Sure.
will show you more or less where we're gonna do the opening to attach to the house.
Sure. If you want to bring them forward, we can
Like this. Thank you.
take a couple of minutes, take a look at it. Are the pictures?
I haven't seen them,
Seen 'em?
so
Okay.
it's hard for me to comment on them at this point.
Great.
This is the bedroom where my son stays.
Yeah.
And this closet here.
Yeah.
This is the hallway that over here, this wall goes to this closet.
Okay.
So we were thinking of just closing the closet and open the breezeway going through here into the
Yeah.
garage.
Okay. So maybe what we'll do is, if you have copies, enough copies for everybody, make sure you keep one for yourself, and then
And then,
we can walk through each of the pages. We'll do it that way.
you know, that's
Yeah.
gonna be-
Yeah. So why don't you give a copy to everybody, and then you can explain it at the microphone, okay? Okay, if you can just speak to each of the pages you gave us, just,
Okay.
obviously you provided some pictures and you have a description with each room, so if you could just kind of walk through them, as
Okay.
quickly as possible, if you can, please. Thank
Okay,
you.
basically the first picture is the picture of the bedroom, and the door on the left-hand side, as we face in the picture, is a closet. And that closet goes in, and then on the other side is my hallway that goes to the front, and there's a wall there, which that closet is in there. So we're thinking, if you look in the second picture, Basically, that's the hallway, which I have my desk and my computer there. We would put that wall down and we'd make a throughway, like the breezeway, to go into the garage, to go upstairs to the second floor and also to the garage. Because if we have the front doors, the one on the left goes to the second floor, and the one on the right goes to my first floor, which that's where we'd make that walk through. When we look at the last picture, which probably be better, downstairs I have the two windows. Those are the two windows from that bedroom that I showed, which right before the windows, that's where we wanted to make the walk door to go to the house and to the breezeway. Unless the board doesn't agree me doing that and agrees me taking out that window and make a door where that window is and leave that closet there, don't touch that, leave the closet there, and then I'll lose a room there, but then I'll gain the 3 rooms on the other side. So basically, I'll have the storage place, and it's the only thing we can think of that, we're trying to do this much as we can to make the extra space, and that's the only way we thought of doing.
I have just, I guess, a question.
Sure.
So on the last page you were just talking about.
Yes.
So when I was at your home, I'm not sure what you have in I'm going to call it in your driveway there.
Right,
It
those
has
are pellets.
What are they?
Pellets for the stove.
Pallets for the stove.
Yeah, that we're gonna bring that downstairs.
Because you're actually giving up a parking spot
Oh, I know.
to put those there, and I couldn't
exact.
understand,
Yeah,
because you basically have four parking spots right now,
yes.
and I didn't understand.
Yeah, those
That
were
was
pel-
just something temporary, or what the issue
It's
was?
temporarily. We don't want that there.
Okay. So, Joe, I guess I'll just come back to you real quick. I know we received these latest plans from Mr. White. Was there anything else, Joe, that now that the petitioner gave us these 4 pages, and then we also received, who did up these plans here?
My brother.
Okay, and this is, can you just tell us what this is showing us?
It's basically downstairs. It's the 3-car garage with the 3
Okay,
doors, and then as you go in the breezeway, you go in, there'll be a door going to the garage that we have to close because my brother said that it's dangerous with the fumes from the cars. You need to close the door, and then it goes up the stairs and it goes to the second floor. On the second floor will be 3 rooms, and hopefully, if it's not too expensive, we want to put a small bathroom there for the kids.
okay. And how many people are you expecting to live?
I
guess,
have 3 grandchildren staying over and my son, and then I have a younger son at home, still single, and me and my husband.
Okay. All right. So one of the, Joe, I want to make sure I'm pronouncing your last name. Is it Gizzo?
Gizo, yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
If I'm not saying it correctly, I apologize.
That's okay.
Did Mrs. Gizzo receive the comments from the city, Joe? Did she get a copy?
Yes, I believe so,
Okay.
yes.
So one of the comments that the city made was, site plan does not show proposed stairs behind the proposed structure.
Right.
In the new set of plans, I guess you gave us this evening, so I guess I see a set of stairs on the back.
Yes,
I
and
believe where it
also,
says down.
yes, also then we have that for emergency purpose.
So it looks like you showed that. Yeah. I'm having a lot of trouble reading stuff tonight. The site plan does not clearly identify a location of usable open space.
Okay, basically, where we have the rest of the yard in the back,
Yep.
we're gonna remove the shed where you seen where the shed is. We wanna put it towards the corner so we can build over there. And we're gonna remove the swimming pool because it's too big and we don't have no space for that big pool. After we
That's not
build.
too good for the kids, right?
Oh, they love the pool.
Oh, yeah?
We'll just, if we can, in the future, we'll put a little one, but that one is too big.
Okay. So
We won't
your
have
plan
space.
is to remove, I think you,
Our plans is to remove the pool.
Yep.
And move the shed to the corner and then,
all right, anything else you want to add at this point?
no,
Okay.
I think I have everything in there that I want to do, if I
And,
can.
So what I'm going to do, as I've done with the other petitioners, I'm going to open it up to the public first, see if there's
Okay.
anyone here. Okay?
Uh-huh.
Is there anyone here that'd like to speak in favor of this petition? In favor? In favor? Hearing none. That portion of public hearing is closed. Anyone here that'd like to speak in opposition? In opposition? Opposition? Hearing none. That portion of public hearing is closed. Going to open up to the board. Dennis.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I have a couple of questions, but mostly it pertains to why you can't build an addition that accomplishes what you're trying to do without, and still work within zoning. My biggest concern here is the neighborhood is overbuilt. It seems it's one of those very dense neighborhoods where when you have a house and you have parking associated with the house, and you should have parking, off-street parking if you can, because it's such a tight neighborhood, you don't have any green space because you basically have to take the whole side yard and pave it in order to have room for any cars.
Of course, yeah.
And we should have green space in the city to help water, get into the soil. So I think that it makes sense for us to try to maximize as much open space as we can in a neighborhood as dense as yours is, even though I think when the neighborhood maybe set up originally, it might have been an additional house lot there. But now you have this nice side yard. So I think you can probably modify the design to be a little more middle ground here. The one that I am most nervous about with your proposal is that you don't have parking off-street.
Well, we will have the 3-car garage, which would put the cars in there, and then our tenants, basically, since our house is a corner house and we have no neighbors around on the other side either, in the front is just those garages, and they rent them out and they use for storage. I figured that, we have the parking space all along the side of our house, in the front of the house, because basically nobody else lives right there where we are. Behind us on the other street, yes, but not right there. My husband cleans the snow when it snows for the tenants all the time. We're always cleaning the sidewalk, cleaning the street. I mean, we keep it like if it's ours, basically, so I think we have plenty of parking space there for the tenants and for us, basically.
I guess I should have rephrased. You don't have parking per zoning. You don't have off-street parking per zoning
We don't?
in your plan. I think your front yard setback for a garage is required to be 24 feet, and you're only showing 11.
Yeah, but if I pull back the garage, for an example, it's going to be hard for us to do the breezeway to go into the garage because it's going to take away from my windows from downstairs and the windows from the second floor. And then it's going to take my yard space that I won't have for the kids to play.
But I think per zoning, I think we have to recognize that it's important in a neighborhood like this to have off-street parking.
Mm-hmm.
And it's required per zoning, and I think we should follow that. And I have
Oh,
a
I
hard time
understand.
supporting a plan that doesn't follow that. I know you want to get an addition, but sometimes you can't get everything.
Right, I know. But
Right.
when I bought the house, it didn't even have the parking place. We did it ourselves,
Yep.
And there's a lot of houses that don't have parking place. At least they like it when they go and rent us because they say, oh, at least you have a parking spot here next to the house,
You're right.
I mean, it's hard. We can't
But I think it's, I have a hard time supporting a construction that doesn't follow some,
Right.
because I think part of the zoning is to fix the problems in some of the neighborhoods, and this is such a heavily built neighborhood that to build more in a heavily built neighborhood, I think you should follow the zoning so that you can
Right,
do
so
something that's,
if I'm not able to do it, I'm not even able to do just a 3-car garage?
you're probably going to be maxing out the site without the breezeway. You're probably going to have to push the building back on the site in
But
order
I
to
would
meet
still have to
zoning.
push back the garage if I wanted to build a garage?
I think so. I just have a
Would
hard time
take away
supporting
my
a
yard.
garage that's so close to the street in a neighborhood that's so challenged for parking. I understand you can park in the corner, but you don't know what the snow's gonna be like in the winter, and then where the car's gonna be. I think it's important that we honor the zoning, especially with the setback from the street. I think that's really kind of important, for me at least. I think there's a way to do something here and still have a plan that, maybe
The-
it's not exactly everything you want, but
Yeah,
it's
the way
still.
we were taking the measurements, if we push back, we're just gonna take away from the backyard, and there's no,
You're right. You are
take
gonna
away
take away
from the backyard, and,
Yep.
and I'm doing it for the kids' sake, and that's where they are most of the time. It's like, I want them to have a good sleeping place, a good playing place, and their own backyard. And if it takes it away, I'm just,
It's a tough
not even gonna
compromise.
touch it, because I'm spending all that money, and
What you get to do then is maybe park in the garage and have a spot in the front yard where in front of the cars from the, it's a
and
trade-off.
the front is
It's a
so
trade-off.
dangerous to
I
be in
know,
the
it's a
front.
trade-off.
Yeah.
But I just think that we have to follow, in a challenged neighborhood like this one, where everything is so tight, we have to follow a plan that relieves some of the pressure, and having off-street parking is key, in my opinion. And that 24-foot setback for garages is a key thing for us to follow, and I have a hard time seeing a plan here that doesn't do the basic things for a neighborhood like that. So that's my biggest concern here. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dennis. Fan?
I have no comments at this time, Mr. Chairman, but maybe if other board members can weigh in, I'm still on the fence about this petition, so those are all the comments I have right now.
Thank you. Gary?
Through you, Mr. Chairman. Just a few quick questions. How long have you owned the home?
Oh, we've been there. To tell you the truth, the honest truth, it's been over 15 years.
As the chairman had asked, did you read all the zoning analysis from DPD? Did you?
When I received it, I came here and I had Joe helping me with the requirements that I needed and preparing everything. And then was Mrs. Joseph too, that she helped me. Basically, to tell you the truth, no, I didn't, because I don't understand anything about it. So I just rather them explain to me what I needed and what I didn't need. And they helped me prepare everything.
As it relates to the plan itself and the building plan, I believe you stated your brother helped you with this, is he?
Yeah, he did the blueprints for me. He's an electrician, and I asked him I gave him the idea what I wanted, and he built it for me.
Is there any thought in the process of reducing the size of the building to accommodate both needs? And what I mean by that
You mean
is
instead of the 3-car garage, do a 2-car
garage,
garage?
two-car garage, reduce the structure itself, maybe come up with an alternative plan for the breezeway and not lose as much of the rear yard as possible? Is there any secondary plan in thought with either yourself or your brother who's been helping you with the plans?
We didn't think of anything, basically, we just put down what we're really looking for, and
Okay. Because you're required at 6,000 and you're showing 44.9.
if by reducing the 3-car garage to a 2-car garage, do I still have to go back the 24 feet?
I defer to Mr. McCarthy to answer that question, Mr. Chairman.
Well, my preference is to make a distance that's reasonable for parking. And I know 24 feet is probably in excess of what a car space is. So I would suggest something 18 to 20 would be what I personally would feel comfortable with, only because I think it's important for a car to park off-street in that neighborhood.
Thank you.
I just trying to get a feeling of where you're at on the size of the addition of the site, as well as maintaining usable space, green space, parking spaces. There's a lot to consider. The aesthetics, the tightness of the community. I certainly do appreciate the way you keep the property up in the side street and all that, but the concerns is that the front yard setback and the size of the garage is just, and I don't mean to be rude, but you're almost trying to put a round peg into a square here. I think if there's a secondary thought at how we can compromise with the reduction of 3 to 2, it might work, and then you have the 2 interior, and then you might have 3 exterior, because if you only have 4 parking spots and there's 4 adults plus tenants, would you have tenants?
Yes, I do have
So
tenants.
you're possibly looking upwards to 6 cars, 4 at a minimum. I just think there's some type of compromise that may be needed to be looked at even more, not only with yourself and DPD, but not being disingenuous to the gentleman that prepared the plans, but I think a general contractor builder might be able to give you some amenities that can be changed to help satisfy you. I know
My
you're strong.
needs.
I know you're strong in that breezeway because it's a perfect cut through to congeal the entire family back and forth.
Right.
It seems as though it's very important to you. But as I look at the pictures that you presented tonight, I'm thinking that a 2-car garage with a reduction of 8 feet would then not reduce your backyard by only 2 feet, if my quick math is correct there. So I'm just trying to satisfy both needs and just come up with some of the real answers that were given to us in the zoning analysis, as far as the minimum side setback, dwelling square footage. There seems to be a lot here that needs to be addressed. And I'm quite frank, I'm not sure it can be addressed tonight.
Okay.
In all fairness to you.
Can I please say something now? Basically, if I don't get it approved for the 3-car garage and above thing, will I be able to get approved at least to make one room coming, towards the back of the house? Just add another room towards on the back where I have the pool. Just do like an extra bedroom there, and then they'll give me at least a bedroom for the kids, and I'll be happy with that, because the 2-car garage basically is not going to do me any good, because it's only going to fit 2 cars, right? So no matter what, it's going to take space away from the driveway. So without the garages, I can fit more than 4 cars in that driveway, if they're small cars. Because I know at Christmas time, we pull the cars tight and we fit at least 6 cars in that driveway, right? Because they're, economic cars. If I was able to get approval at least to do 1 bedroom, that'd make me happy.
Well, I think to your point, I would not. I guess what I'm saying, my recommendation would take a second look at this outside of tonight's meeting, and maybe come up with an alternative plan 1A and 2, and propose that to the city, to DPD, and have them take a look at that, as opposed to moving forward with a vote tonight, which is not in your best interest. I think you've done some due diligence here, and you've put together a nice package, but I think that in light of some of the comments that the city has presented and some of the comments you're hearing, you might want to put pen to paper again and come up with a couple of alternative plans that is amiable to both parties, so that you satisfy what you need to do as a family, and it meets the zoning requirements, parking, green space, open use space, and the like.
Can I say something real quick?
If you can, sir, you got to introduce yourself, your name and where you live.
I'm Carlos Mello, I'm her brother. I live in Litchfield, New Hampshire.
Okay.
But I'm the one that did the blueprints, and there's something
Sure.
that hasn't been said about the blueprints yet that probably wasn't as obvious, because he keeps mentioning off-street parking. There was calculations done to allow for 2 cars to park in front of the garage and still be on her property, as long as they park across the face of the doors. So there would be a total of 5 parking spots, the 3 for the inside of the garage and 2 additional in front of the garage, and that would still be on her property.
So if I'm clear, what you're bringing to the table now is that you're saying with the existing structure, you would then go horizontally with 2 cars in front
Outside of the
outside the
garage,
garage.
right.
In front of the garage, you'd then have,
There was room calculated, pushed the garage back far enough so that 2 cars could actually fit. I actually measured my truck, which is an enormous truck, and I calculated what it would take to put my truck in front of the garages, and there's enough room in front to fit 2 vehicles this way, across the front of the garage,
and then you're stating that's entirely on
on her
the
property,
site
right, before
property.
it even hits the
There's no
sidewalk. right.
encroachment on the city sidewalk or any
Wouldn't be
of
on the
that
sidewalk
value
of the
there?
city. It's. But that was part of the thing, was she wanted to have something in front of the garage if they wanted to park across, and there wasn't enough room calculated for it. If you look at the, I'm not sure if you guys got this, but this is where the garage actually sits. This is where the street property line is. This room right here is actually enough room to fit my truck this way. And I drive a 3/4 ton extended cab pickup truck, and it will fit this way in front of the garage.
Can you bring that forward and just take a look at it?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I have no further questions at this time. However, I reserve the time for questions if needed at a little time. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Corey?
Through you, Mr. Chairman. Well, I was out there this afternoon, and you do have a very lovely home that's well-maintained, and it seems like you've been a good resident of the city and a good neighbor, I'm sure.
Yes, it is.
But you do have a lot going on with this plan, I'll have you know. I don't blame you, you're trying to utilize your land, and, but it's, I think it's a bit much. I mean, we want to help you. I think this board all wants to, give you something, but I think, a 3-car garage might be a bit much. I mean, here's what I'd like to see, and I think it goes along the lines with Mr. Perrin's, is that, I'd like to see this cut down to maybe a 2-car with a room above, so you could have your living space. And, you know, I'd like to see it backed up enough where you can fit a car inside the garage and a car in front, and that way there, so it's not protruding, you know, so it's still on your property. I'd like to see still a total of 4 off-street spaces somehow. We'd have to reconvene this plan. This plan it's gonna need some work. But I think it's still, you know, it's doable here. I think we can do something for you. But as it stands right now, I think we got a few challenges. It's just a little bit too much for the neighborhood. It's very congested. And, you know, I want to see you take this time to get definitely some cars off the street. And, you know, you could build yourself maybe a 2-car garage with a room above, and hopefully you'll have enough green space in the rear and a little yard for your grandchildren or whatnot. But I'd like to see, you know, at least 4 off-street here. And, you know, so that's going to involve a whole new plan and stuff like that. So just want to let you know, you'll be getting into now at this point. It's tricky. It's a very congested neighborhood, as you know, and it's, you know, it's going to get a little tricky, and it could be a little cost effective for you to, you know, probably build another plan, draw another plan up and see where we go. Work with planning and development here. Joe will help you along the way, it's his department. And to, you know, the adequate parking, green space, and setbacks and whatnot. Let's try and reach the best compromise we can. And hopefully we can make something work for you. Okay, that's my input. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, I think at the end of the day, you kind of heard a lot of the comments that the board members have. I think there's a lot of concern of the proposal taking a lot and kind of, you know, I'll use the word jamming it in. I know that's not the intention, that you're trying to jam it in. But I know when Dennis was trying to explain about the parking, the regulations don't consider, you know, parking on the street as part of the requirements. Anybody that's open to anybody, it's part of the requirements that the city has. So hopefully we made it clearer to you. Now, this gentleman, when he mentioned about, you know, the stacked parking or the horizontal, Joe, when you looked at the plans, did you notice anything about, you know, three for each, one for each of the garages, and then the parking, I'll call it the horizontal, to fit 2 more in? Was that visible to you when DPD looked at the plans?
Not exactly. It would be really challenging in terms of turning movements to try to get 2 cars in front of the 3-car garage horizontally, especially if one was already in there. And it would also be challenging trying to play the game of moving cars around if someone that was parked in the garage, particularly if they were in the center, had to get out. You'd likely have to coordinate moving both cars that were, if they were 2 cars somehow parked horizontally in there, out of the way. So parking cars horizontally like that in front of the garage would be challenging. I think, as the board noted too, in terms of the distance from the street, even stacking them, you'd end up having cars overhanging the sidewalk and really overhanging into the street. So that would be a concern as well, with the distance at the, that it is right now.
Well, I assumed DPD didn't see 5 because I didn't see anything mentioned anywhere that said, you know, the petitioner's suggestion is for 5 parking. It was recorded as 3.
Right. You wouldn't have this.
I understand what the gentleman was saying to us, but I didn't see anything that explained that, you know, we as a board were looking at 5. You know, to me, there's a lot that you're trying to do. You only have like 4,500 square feet on a corner lot. You already have a 2-family in there. I understand you're trying to, you know, you're trying to add on because of family considerations, but to be frank with you, we can't have that approach with every single petitioner if they had family issues. But I think each of the board members have explained to you, I think we have some opportunity maybe to do some additional work, because I'll tell you a concern I have is, you know, the finished product looks nice, but one of the big concerns I have is, you know, even when I look at this, you know, that looks really sharp, looks really nice, but I almost see like your 2-family, and then you see this, and it almost looks like something being jammed in. And I think there was enough done in the city with jamming in of stuff in the past. That's the
Right,
past.
right,
That's not
yeah.
today.
Right.
Again, as I stated, I went to your property, and it's very well maintained. It looks great. But even when you talk about your grandchildren, you know, it seems to me you're giving up a lot of the open space you could have, at least for the kids, to have some type of backyard to be in,
Yeah.
that they're safe in. So I think there is opportunity to try to work with you to see if we can put something together that meets almost all of the requirements. I know with a variance, you know, we have a little bit of latitude, but, you know, I just want to impress upon you, it seems like you're trying to push a lot into a small, very small space. So Joe, I understand the petition has been down, at least has spoken with you and talked with you.
Yes.
Do you see an opportunity that maybe she could sit at the table with the people in DPD and maybe talk about some opportunities here, or at least come back with a?
Yeah, if the board wanted to see some alternatives, we're open to sitting down with the applicant to explore some, albeit limited, opportunities that there might be on the property and present it back in front of the board for your review.
Yeah, I just think there's a lot of challenges that I've seen, you know, from requirements.
Yeah.
Not that we can't, you know, we as the board and the city can't work with you on that. So I think based on what I've heard from the members and maybe my own observations, I would like to just propose that to you. Now, you don't have to accept that. If you want to pull back and, you know, take down the petition without any prejudice and come back some other day, that's fine. Or if you want to set up some time to work with the city to maybe have another plan put together that the board could take another look at. You know, we can provide that too.
I mean, I'm not gonna give up, because if I can't do, like I said, the 3-car garage and the rooms above, at least one extra room. If I can build towards the back, one extra room, that's gonna be marvelous for me. At least that one extra room.
Yep.
You know,
So if you,
I'm gonna need.
that's something you'd
sorry.
like to do, is work with the Department of Planning and Development, we'll continue this.
Okay.
We'll have you guys set up a meeting and work together, and then some point in the future,
Okay.
you can come back before us. So Joe, if we went down that, just real quick, if we went down that road and she sits with you and
Sure.
you guys don't come to a compromise, she'll still come back and she could withdraw without prejudice even at that point. Is that correct?
Yes, that's
Yep.
correct.
Yep. I'm just trying to give you as many opportunities as possible.
Right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I think that's an outstanding compromise, because there's several challenges here. I'd recommend continuation of 30 days into the first meeting in September, because due to the challenges we have ahead, I think that gives everybody ample time to give us a nice plan for the first meeting in September, and hopefully one that will work. So, Joe, what's our first meeting in September?
September 9th.
September 9th.
So September 9th is the next time we would entertain this, so at least gives you,
So it gives me time to prepare something
Yeah,
else?
and
Okay,
you can work out a schedule with Joe that
Okay.
Works for both of you.
Okay.
And so if you want to proceed with that, we'll take a vote to continue, and
Yeah.
we'll proceed ahead. Okay?
yes, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so could I have a motion to continue to September 9th? Is that what I heard?
September 9th, Mr. Chairman,
September
yes.
9th, 2013.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, the matter before us, ZB 2013-22 at 154 Perry Street for a variance. I make a motion to approve a continuance to September 9th, 2013 meeting.
Second the motion.
Have a roll call?
Mr. Bailey?
Continue to September 9th.
Mr. Belanger?
Continue.
Mr. McCarthy?
Continue.
Mr. Peck?
Continue.
Mr. Perrin?
Continue to September 9th, 2013.
Okay, Ms. Gizzo, you've been
Thank you.
going to be continued to September 9th, and
Okay,
hopefully we'll see a new set of plans. Okay?
okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, our next petition is ZB 2013 2023. This is a special permit and variance for signs. The applicant is Bergmeyer Associates. Property is located at 346 Westwood Street. Petition to install new internally illuminated signage for an existing TD Bank pursuant to Section 6.3 of the zoning ordinance. Good evening, sir. How are you?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Matthew Hyatt. I'm an architect with Bergmeyer Associates in Boston, working with TD Bank on the refacing or refinishing of signs at their existing location at 346 Westford Street.
Yep.
I believe you already have visuals, so we don't
Yes.
need those. We
Nope,
weren't
that's
sure
fine.
exactly how you were set up here. We're here tonight to request a special permit. This is actually the third time these signs have been before this board, initially in the year 2000, prior to TD Bank's involvement with the property. There was a special permit to allow for internally illuminated signs. In 2009, there was a special permit granted to allow those signs to be refaced when TD Bank North, the current owner at that point, became TD Bank and basically changed their branding. There was a condition with that special permit that any additional work done on these signs would require review by this board and again an application for special permit. We're here tonight because TD Bank is now TD. So in concert with their rebranding, they would like to replace the existing two signs, the TD Bank signs, with TD signs, which normally would have been a refacing. However, as you're well aware, since 2009, LED technology has come a long, long way. And so in an effort to also reduce the amount of electricity used by the signs, the recommendation is to simply replace the two existing sign boxes with new sign boxes with LED lights instead of the fluorescent lights, with the new faces as part of that. And in the process, actually, to get the proportions of their logo exactly right, the two signs are getting slightly smaller, each one going from 18.98 square feet down to 17.79. It's not a tremendous change, but it is a change in the smaller direction. That's all I have, but I'm happy to take specific questions.
Sure. Well, I know there's one member of this board that's going to be happy about this petition, but I'll let him speak for them. Yeah, if there's nothing else you have at this point, I'm going to open it up to the public.
That's fine.
Okay. Anyone here like to speak in favor of this petition? In favor? Favor? Hearing none, that portion of public hearing is closed. Anyone like to speak in opposition? 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 Hearing none, that portion of public hearing is closed. I'll open it up to the board. Mr. Dennis.
Through you, Mr. Chairman. What a great sign. LED and everything.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And smaller.
Finally.
Doesn't get better than this. Is there any way of predicting the next branding
You know, we've been,
name that we're going to do here?
yeah, we don't think they'll ever go down to just T. I think we may have hit the end.
It's amazing what they've done to their name. This is a great move. I think that you've done everything right, and this is a great proposal. I can't do anything but support this. And great location for a bank. I use this one all the time, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
No personal comments, please. Fan.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, as my colleague just mentioned, the plans are very extensive, so I appreciate it, very detailed. I just had one question. What are the hours of illumination?
Oh, boy, I'm not sure we know. Matt, do we have that documented? There would be no change in
Okay.
the existing hours of operations connected to the same time clock.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I do not have
But
the
no,
actual
that's the only question I have. Besides that, it's a great package, and I support it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Van. Gary?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the petitioner, I want to thank you for a detailed plan. It's always nice when petitioners come in with a detailed plan and are well prepared. I think the reduction in sign and the use of LED makes us happy as a board, and you know, it's the wave of the future, and we're glad you recognize that. I will, in reference to my colleague, make the condition that the hours of illumination stand as they are currently, as long as you're in agreement with that.
Fair enough.
In support of this. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Gary. Corey?
No comments, Mr. Chairman.
Well, as I warned you, one member of this board would be elated with the proposal. And Joe, if we could use this gentleman's presentation as a template for other petitioners that come before us, they might want to take notice. But no, you hit on a lot of the key things that we as a board with signage often struggle with. So it was refreshing to hear somebody wants to reduce the size, not that they have to, but, and also using the type of illumination that we would like to see as a board use. So I'm in full support. And I mean, that actual bank or that location has been there for quite a while now, and they do a lot of business in there. So I think the signage will look nice. So could I have a motion, please?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, the matter before us is ZB 2013-23 at 346 Westford Street for a special permit. Make a motion to approve with the following condition. The hours of illumination will remain as currently established at this business.
Okay, so we're going to need 2 votes, right, Joe? Special
Yes,
permit
that's
and
correct.
variance?
One for the special permit, one for the variance, right?
2, right?
Yes, that's
Yep.
correct, yeah.
Okay. So for the special permit, can I have a second to the motion?
Second the motion?
Okay, can I have a roll call?
Mr. Bailey?
Approved.
Mr. Belanger?
Approve.
Mr. McCarthy?
Approve.
Mr. Peck?
Approve.
Mr. Perrin?
Approved.
Okay, could I have a motion on the variance, please?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, the matter before us is ZB 2013-23 at 346 Westford Street for variance. I make a motion to approve.
Have a second?
Second the motion?
Roll call?
Mr. Bailey?
Approved.
Mr. Belanger?
Approve with conditions.
Mr. McCarthy?
Approve with conditions?
Mr. Peck?
Approve with conditions?
Mr. Perrin?
Approved.
Okay, sir, you've been approved for both special permit and variance.
Thank you very much.
Wish you
Appreciate
best
your
of
time
luck.
this evening.
Yep, thank you. Okay, our next matter before us is ZB 2013-24. The petition is a special permit. The applicant is Andy Lee. The property is located at 87 Sanders Ave. And the petition is to demolish and reconstruct a non-conforming garage, moving the location of the garage by 1 foot pursuant to section 4.5.7 of the zoning ordinance. Good evening, Mr. Lee. How are you?
I'm good, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for having me this evening.
Yeah, so if you could tell us about what your plans are, please?
As it states, my plan is to knock down the garage and build a new garage attached to the house. Its current dimension is 19 by 21. The new dimension will be 20 by 24. It's a single-car garage. The need for it to be bigger is because I have a storage area which is underneath my back sunroom. It's 8 by 12. There's no access to the rest of the basement. This was an addition that was added on from the previous owner back a long time ago. So if I make the garage any smaller, I will lose that storage space. It's an 8 by 12 storage space. It's quite considerable. So therefore, I need to make that garage 20 feet wide and 24 feet deep.
Okay. How long have you lived there, sir?
I've lived there, excuse me, I've been on Sanders Ave since 1991. But I've lived on 87 Sanders Ave, which is right, the house next door, since 2001.
Okay.
When Robert Lee bought the house, I became resident there. And Han Chow bought the house from Robert Lee a few years back.
Yep.
And I recently purchased the house from Han Chow earlier this year.
okay, all right. Anything else you'd like to tell us about it?
Just the fact that the garage has been neglected, and it is leaning forward towards my house.
Yep.
Roof is in very bad conditions due to neglect. My plan, my goal is to make it look nice.
Okay.
This will certainly help the values of the house, like you mentioned. This will no doubt help it.
Yep.
It was the ugliest house on the street. It's no longer the ugliest house. I've done siding, I've done roof, and the garage is the next thing I'd like to do.
Yep.
So with everyone's permission, I think this is a win-win situation for everyone. The only downside is I don't have enough room for it.
Okay. Okay, sir. I'm going to open it up to the public at this point. Anyone here that'd like to speak in favor of this petition? In favor? Favor? Hearing none, that portion of public hearing is closed. Anyone like to speak in opposition? In opposition? Opposition? Hearing none. That portion of public hearing is closed. I'd like to open up to the board. Dennis?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I think you do have one of the ugliest garages, though, in the neighborhood right now. Your house does look wonderful. But the garage proposal is less than a foot away from the property line, which really troubles me a lot.
Yeah.
I think that that's really a bad precedent for me to feel comfortable with. I think it's wonderful that you want to replace the garage, because I agree, and I know that by right you could replace it where it is, but where you're interested in making an improvement there, I think 5 feet would be something that I would want to see as a minimum established as a criteria for setbacks. I think 1 foot or 9 inches, what is it, well, it's 11 inches, I guess,
Yeah.
is really hard for me to feel a possibility, really. It's hard to build something that tight.
I certainly understand. Can I add one thing? As it stands, the garage is sitting 3.6 inches
Over.
on my neighbor's property.
Sure.
My proposal will put it 1 feet into my property on the side. As it stands on the rear, it sits on the property line. The proposal will move it 5 feet forward.
Right.
So any raindrops will no longer fall into his yard. I know it's not a lot, but if I do have an overhang, it's not going to fall over. Moving it 1 foot over into my property line, it relieves me of any liability being his property. Right now, my garage is in his property. I wasn't aware of that, neither was he. We only became aware of this when I had my land surveyor did the measurements, and we became aware of it. So either we leave it as it is, it's in my neighbor's property. We're in violation somehow, or I don't know what it is. I understand my proposal does not put me in the current zoning requirement, but at least I'm no longer on his property. It doesn't mean anything as far as zoning goes, I understand. So that's my problem. That's my dilemma. Either I leave it there or I take it out.
What was the criteria for the dimension being 20 feet wide?
Oh, I had it's a 8 by 12 room, a sunroom that was added to the house. And underneath that sunroom is a storage area. Within the storage area, there's only one way to access it. That is from a walkout from that rear side. If you look at the drawing that I have in the garage, it'll show that little area there. And I need about 5 feet to walk down. It's a 4 feet drop. So the entrance to that is in that area, that corner. And it just so happened that the gap between my house and the garage is about 8 feet, and that's it. And the rest is just the current standing garage. I have no room. I don't want a 20 feet wide garage. I don't. I just want enough to fit my car, a single car, and that would be it. And that's it. But unfortunately, I don't want to lose that space as well too. The house is small as it is. I have 4 boys. And the house it's a 4-bedroom, and that's it. You know what I mean? So I can't lose any more space. Whatever space I have, I'd like making use of it. Having an attached garage is beautiful because my wife doesn't have to walk in the rain and the snow in the wintertime. She just got to get in there. I just got to plow the front driveway, and we're done. I know you're concerned about ample parking spaces. With this garage, I still have ample parking spaces. Plenty. 2 in the front drive, 2 in the front off-street, 1 in the car, 1 in the front driveway. My mother's next door. She's got a double-car garage, you know.
My initial thought, though, of getting to a 5-foot property setback, is that something that you'd entertain at all, as far as having the width of the garage maybe 16 feet versus the 20? And then you would have, you know, maybe 10 feet for your garage, for your car to park. You'd still have enough room to do your access to the basement, as you described.
I still would not have. Would you, I mean, perhaps, given the opportunity, you might want to visit that, have a look, a full, maybe you've driven by, but maybe you might want to come by and take a look in more detail. I can't foresee of a better plan to do this, like, you know, for me, economically and efficiently for me. I'm sure there are other plans that we can come about, but money-wise, this is the best for me, you know.
Is your neighbor's garage close to the property line?
He doesn't have a garage, it's a shed. Steve Granger.
I'm sorry, is your shed close to the property line?
Yes, it is.
It seems like it's at least 5 feet from the property line, if you just look at the white one next door here at Steve.
Steve is green, his is green. Steve Granger, his is green.
I'm sorry.
The white one's on the left hand side, that's my mother's. That is about, I want to say 12 feet from my, she's looking at the house from the front, she's on the left and Steve's on the right. And the white garage is on the left, and it's nowhere near my garage. It's Steve's shed that's near my garage.
Well, I don't know what to say. There are garages close to the property lines in that neighborhood, and I see new construction going in here, and I have a hard time with it being that close to the property line. I'm having a difficult time with accepting something that close, 11 inches, as new construction. And in a zone that requires you to have a 10-foot dimension.
Oh, yes.
So I'll wait and listen to my colleagues here. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Ben?
Through you, Mr. Chairman. I had a chance to drive by and see the garage. It is in rough shape, so I'm happy to see that you are updating and upgrading and making it a better garage, because overall safety is a big issue for me. So if you're willing just to compromise, like 4 or 5 foot, like Mr. McCarthy suggested, it'd probably be in your best interest. But overall, I do support this petition, and I thank you guys for staying. I know it's been a while, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Van. Gary?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the petitioner. If you could go over that storage area room, if you could just go over that again, as far as, you're saying it only has one entrance to it?
Yes, one entry. That's from that side corner, where between the side corner of the house and the garage.
Garage, okay.
Yeah.
And it's a 4-foot drop?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's about 4 foot, 4.5, yeah.
So if the reduction from 20 to 16,
That's going to give me a very tight parking area for a garage. I got to consider that I'm going to have these stairs going down. And
Yeah.
I can't really park too close to that stairways.
what is the detriment to that storage space is what you referred to earlier, that the reduction would be a detriment to that storage area which you're trying to...
Yes, I don't want to lose that storage area. It's a very nice size storage area.
So I guess if I can be clearer, how do you not, even if you reduce the size of the garage, how do you lose that space?
Well, I want to have ample space to walk down to that storage area.
So you would go from a 4-foot, you would be reduced from 4 to 2 feet?
I'm sorry, say it again?
Would you be, if I'm envisioning this correctly?
Yeah, yeah.
That cutout comes out with only one entrance.
Yes.
The reduction in the garage would then just make that secondary entrance tighter.
That's correct.
and I think my math is correct, it would be reduced by 2 feet, that area?
I haven't done the math to find out exactly how much I
I'm
can,
just-
I can, you know what I mean?
I'm just trying to
Yeah.
look at both, although I do appreciate, the removal of the ugliest garage
Yeah,
on the street, and removing the structure itself from from your neighbor's property to your own.
yeah.
I myself have concerns about that 1-foot precedent that this board would be establishing at this point.
Mhm.
I think there is some type of compromise in square footage that may be looked at a little.
So what would you say is the maximum size I can build for this as far as width? You mentioned 16 feet. I'd be losing 4 feet. The requirement is 10 feet. You just said so yourself, the requirement is 10 feet. Yeah. And here, we're talking about 4 feet, difference of 3 more feet. It doesn't make sense to me. Versus, this plan was approved years ago for my garage to be in my neighbor's property. And here I am trying to do it's not the right thing, I get that, but we're halfway there. We're halfway there. I'm not hurting anybody. I understand what you're saying, I clearly do. But I don't see how this is gonna help me at all. Because to me, what I've attempted to do is to help myself, first and foremost, and my neighbor. I want to get out of his property. I need approval, authorization to do that from you gentlemen. If you don't give that to me, what good is it for me doing anything to this garage? It's simple. Either I get approved or I don't do nothing to it. The problem is, this garage is in my property. It's leaning forward. It's a liability for me. I'm coming to you gentlemen for some help here. There was a pardon then. I'm asking for another pardon now.
I believe we're more than halfway there, to be honest with you. I'm just trying to get a scope of how you explain that size driveway.
I'm not trying to explain anything. I'll lay it simple. Someone approved it years ago for this to be built on my neighbor's property. And I'm asking for a pardon to put it back in my property. Yes, there's a code set up that I don't have enough property for, but isn't it what these two gentlemen are here for? If I put that garage in my property, no one's gonna get hurt.
I'm fully aware of why I'm here.
I'm saying?
I'm fully aware of why we're here as a
Yeah,
board.
yeah.
I'm fully aware of that. I was just trying to get a clarification. I think it's maybe a time to take a little breath
Sure.
for a minute. I was just trying to get clarification on your measurements that you were giving me, and I'm just trying to get those questions answered. I'm fully aware of what the board and the obligations are to the code and the ordinance, and I'm fairly confident my colleagues are as well. I was just trying to get a better understanding of what you were explaining to me before I made a decision.
I apologize for my misunderstanding.
That's all. When you mentioned that 4-foot drop and that piece, it threw a curveball to my understanding of how you were explaining it. I was just trying to clarify it for the record. I fully understand what you're trying to do, and I do appreciate
Thank you.
what you're trying to do, and we as a board are always willing to take that under advisement. With that being said, I just wanted to have a quick inhale and exhale for a minute. I just wanted that explained in more detail, that's all. But that does clarify to me what you're trying to do. You're trying to do two phases here. You're trying to reduce the property,
Yes,
being on your neighbor's lot,
Yes.
trying to increase
yes,
your
Absolutely.
space. You're trying to eliminate a
Absolutely.
safety issue,
yes,
and you're trying to save that storage space, which obviously is
Yes.
very important to you.
yes.
And 4 boys, I'm sure you're looking for some space as well, so,
You sound better than I do.
thank you. That was just a point of clarification.
Yeah, thank you.
I have no further questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Gary. Corey?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Lee, I was out there this afternoon. I looked over your property, and yes, the garage has to go. I mean, it's dilapidated, it's leaning, and I definitely see what you're trying to accomplish. It's on your neighbor's property, a few inches, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, you could easily rebuild that and not need any approvals and still be on your neighbor's yard.
That's correct.
So we appreciate that you're here doing what you're doing, but at the same time, you know, please understand this board's responsibilities here that, you know, you're changing the game a little bit when you're attaching it to the house now, which is fine, I don't have a problem with, but it's new construction, and less than a foot from the property line is not setting a good example citywide. I know it's existing on the property, I understand that, and we get it, and we want to help you. I want to see you with a breezeway and a garage, I certainly do. But I'd like to see it come in a few more feet, to be honest with you. We're not setting an example, you know, people are going to look at this and say, well, you did it on Sanders Ave, but, you know, and that will not be setting a good example citywide, sir. I hope you can appreciate that. But I do want to see you with the garage. I had the same concerns as Dennis started with, when he started the deliberation, and I agree with him that we're not, with new construction, we have to bring it in a little bit. It should be 10 feet. I'm not asking for anywhere near that. I'd like to see a minimum of at least 3. He mentioned 5, but I'd compromise for 3. But Mr. Lee, I hope you understand that it's awful close. I know it's a great improvement to what's there. I know that. But I'd like to see if you can bring this, in a little bit more, a couple feet, make it a little more feasible for your neighbors, and again, setting an example citywide. So that's what I'd like to see. But I'm only one vote. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Corey. Joe, in the write-up from DPD, it talks about the Tyler Park Historic Review. Applicant will be seeking approval for the reconstructed garage from the Lowell Historic Board.
Yes, this property is in the Tyler Park Historic District, so the
Right.
design of the structure will receive review from the Historic Board. They may or may not necessarily look at some of the dimensional requirements that you're considering tonight. They would just be more looking at the materials and the look of the structure.
Material or look of the
Materials
structure?
utilized in the building of the
So, I
structure.
mean, it talks about, 87 Sanders Ave, existing non-conforming structure, does not meet dimensional requirements, blah, blah. The project scope includes demolition and construction of attached, but it also says the board's discretion to allow existing non-conforming structure, which is what this is? Okay.
Yes, that's correct.
As long as the proposed reconstruction is determined to be compatible in style and scale with the existing neighborhood. So is that to mean every single garage? Is it new construction within a historic has to go before that board as far as the exterior goes?
That's correct. All new construction and demolition in the historic districts are required to have
Okay.
some level of
So
historic board review.
Does Mr. Lee know that?
I believe so.
Stephen from the Historical District visited my garage,
Okay, Steve
and
Stoll
he
did.
he authorized that lift being leaning forward, and, he says, go ahead and knock it down. But he has not reviewed the
Right.
the new garage yet. But he has seen my house, yes.
So what
He
I'm
was
getting
there.
at is, I got to assume, I guess, I hate to say that, but I got to assume if he's going to have historic board review the finished product from the outside, there's not going to be any issues with, it's going to be in conformity with the historic zone, I guess is what I'm saying. Not that every single garage fits the historic zone, correct?
Right, not necessarily. If the board approved the plan as it is now, the board would have to work to make the structure try to fit with the size that it is now.
Does he have to have
Obviously-
windows in it?
Excuse me?
Does the facade have to have windows, for instance? I don't know what the criteria from the historic board is.
I'm not entirely sure either. I think it's more of a case-by-case review.
Yeah, so I don't know how rigid it is. I don't know what the property line between you and Mr. Granger,
Yes.
is it I'm trying to remember, is it open, or are there is there shrubbery?
A hedge. There's a hedge that goes from front to back up
Yeah.
to the garage.
How high is the hedge? Is it fairly high?
I think 6 feet. My wife recently, she trimmed it yesterday. It's down 6 feet now.
6 feet, yeah. So there's some type of a buffer there to begin with between you and Mr. Granger's.
Oh, yes.
I'm assuming it's on Mr. Granger's lot, that
Yes, it
buffer,
is.
right?
Yes, it is. Mr. Granger has no, he wanted to be here to support, but he had a meeting and he was not able to.
So Joe, I'm assuming, I didn't receive it, but I'm sure all the abutters were notified of this.
Jim?
Absolutely, yep.
Nobody showed up. We didn't receive anything from, especially Mr. Granger, either
Right, we didn't,
opposition or.
right, we didn't receive any
I
correspondence.
know there's some type of buffer there right now, which has probably been there for many years. I don't know how high that shrubbery is gonna grow or whatever, but I know there's this discussion about, your plan shows it as a foot in, and some of the members are looking for it to be in further, but it already looks like there's some type of buffer there anyways. Pushing it in, I don't know how much that's going to really change the look of this because of the buffer. That's one point. Second point, how wide is the driveway? I'm trying to vision what's there today. Is the width, it says, I'm looking at the width of the driveway, and I can't figure what the width is.
The width of the driveway as it is, I drive a Nissan Maxima, and I've got, with my car, there's just 2 feet on each side. I want to make the driveway wider to allow me ample space to get in and out of there. And I don't want to have to cut into Steve's side where I'm brushing up against his hedges.
Yeah,
I
so
want to stay
your
away from, I want to
existing-
stay
your
away from
exist-
that.
Excuse me, your existing driveway is pretty far over. It's probably like a foot off of where the hedges are, right?
Yes,
Yeah, so the existing driveway that's there is pretty close to the lot line.
yes,
I'm
it
just
is.
kind of taking a look at what the existing condition is, and I'm sure the condition's been like that for many years.
Oh, yes, it's always been like that.
So I know, again, I keep coming back to, the board members have talked about pushing it in off the line.
Yes.
My question is, if I look at, do you have this in front of you?
I don't. I remember what it looks
Okay,
like.
so I'm a little confused, maybe I missed it between all the other discussion. It shows 20 feet across, right? And it
Yes.
shows it going right up against the home?
That's correct.
So it's gonna go up against the home. Is this your existing back porch?
Yes, that's correct.
And so what happens to that? That's gone?
That's going to be like a pass-through from the garage to the house, to the kitchen.
So like okay,
A step up.
okay. So that doesn't show like stairs going down or something
No.
into the
it
garage,
doesn't.
right?
Yes, that's
So you're
correct.
gonna have stairs there
Yes.
or something to that effect? So then if I look at your deck area, it shows the stairs coming down. I think you might have been talking about this, but that shows it going right into the side of the garage.
That stair's going to go away.
Okay,
That-
so
but
I don't,
that stairs now because I don't have an alternate route to go.
okay, so I don't see that in the plans here, so that didn't make sense to me. So you're getting rid of the existing stairs, and you're gonna have the stairs go back down into the yard, right? Somehow? All right, and then you're basically building it off the existing house. You're
Yep.
making a bigger garage,
Yep.
correct?
Yes.
Wider and deeper.
Yes.
You're more or less tying it into the house. You don't really have that large of a square footage
No,
of a plot here anyways.
that's correct.
Because I noticed in the calculations, it's like 40% of your square footage is gonna be just the garage. So how many cars are you gonna get in this garage?
One.
Okay. And the purpose, so you're gonna put one car in there, and then what are you gonna use the rest of the garage for, storage?
I want to have a little workshop in the area, in the back of the
Yep.
garage, in the left-hand corner. And the other area is just storage space. The garage will be open concept. It's big, but it'll be open concept. There'll be no rooms, partitions. It's strictly for parking the car and keeping my tools and whatnot.
Yep.
That's it. It'll
So
be
Jo-
one story.
So Joe, excuse me, Joe, I would assume, let's not make a big deal about this, but I would assume if he's got, were you aware that this was gonna be like a walkway into the garage here?
I wasn't aware of the steps coming off the deck or what was happening in terms of the internal area.
That's that. I'm talking about the existing breezeway.
Right, I wasn't aware of what the
Okay, so you didn't know
layout on the
anything about
interior
that.
was.
Then obviously you got the garage door in front, right?
Right,
I would assume that meets any code or, I know nobody talked about it, I'm not trying to make a big deal about this, but you must have two different areas of getting out of there for fire regulations.
Right, and
Right.
that would be reviewed under any building permit.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I'm just, I didn't hear anything. So that, what is this here? This here? I'm asking my fellow board member, this is a storage room up in front? Sure, why not?
It's like a utility room. It's not a- My exit door is gonna be on this side here. I actually have my bill plan was submitted with this application. I took a picture of my brother's garage that I built on my 91 Campbell Drive, which is gonna look just like
You submitted it to,
yes,
Oh.
my brother's garage that I built over there.
okay.
Yes. That's your storage. Oh, no, sorry. This is that's not it. Right here, it's, this one is 8 feet here, and it's 12 feet up this way. This is my half bath here, and this is my room. The storage room underneath, right over here. That's where I was going with that, to come back. This is a fence, actually, that I put up to contain my dog in the backyard. It's a fence. With this gone, the fence will go, and my dog will have full access to the garage and the back part of the house and its backyard.
All right. So this is going away, right? This, I'm calling it a square piece.
The fence is gone.
This is existing, but it's gonna be going away.
That's gonna be gone.
All right, I couldn't understand. All right, okay.
I did have a hard time with my surveyor when he was gone. I had to go back over a number of times.
Okay. All right, thank you, sir. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so obviously, there's some changes on what was submitted this evening to us. Again, I was listening to what everybody was talking about, but a few things didn't add up here. So as far as the existing driveway, when you're driving into the, okay, let me think about this. Are we talking about, is the garage door going to run? How wide is the garage door going to be?
It'll be an average size garage door, 9 by 7. And looking from the front, I'll have, oh, you know what? May I show you?
Sure.
If you don't have that picture.
Sure.
Yeah, the garage door will be 9 by 7, and to the left, the garage door will be a service door to go into the garage, should I don't need to use a garage door.
Okay.
And from the front as well.
9 by 7, then you're talking about another opening,
Yep.
basically where you have the dog, where you have the temporary fence put up.
Yes.
You're gonna have what size is that door?
It'll be like a 36-inch door, or 32 inch.
It'll be, or is that what you're saying? It's gonna be 36?
I would like it to be a 36, so I can be big enough for me to
All right.
get big stuff in and big stuff out.
Okay, so you're gonna have two different entrances, all right.
Yes. The
Because
entrance is,
I was trying to envision, you're coming up the driveway, how big is this garage door going to be? You're telling me you're only gonna put one car in there, that's fine.
that's it.
And then you're trying to use the rest of the space for a shop area and storage and whatever. Is anybody else, based on some of my questions here, any other comments at this point from any members of the board? Because I guess I'm still not done yet, but,
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I think your assessment of the driveway from the lot line is a little further than you think. I mean, I don't think we're talking about a whole lot of a room, but I'm gonna say the edge of the driveway to the lot line is probably 5, 6 feet. At least 5 feet, I'm thinking. I was just here this afternoon, so I don't think it's as close as 1 or 2 like you assessed earlier. So I just wanted to make that point.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I have one other comment. The garage is going to be basically part of the house now. We're going to basically have one structure that's connected, so it's really going to read as one structure. And we already have the house with a existing setback on one side of 4 foot 6 inches. And so I think it's in a neighborhood that requires a 10-foot setback, we're not honoring a 10-foot setback anywhere on the entire lot by approving this tonight. We're giving him a 5-foot setback in the rear. The rear yard setback is 25 feet required. And I read this in the new construction looking like one structure. And is there anything above the garage?
Nothing,
Storage or anything?
just the storage.
So there'll be storage above the garage?
Yes.
So
Just,
there'll be, okay.
may I? It'll look just like this. It has a storage right above it.
Yeah.
It's just it's not a full access, just walk up.
So there'll be
May
a stair or something? Okay. A pull down, okay.
This is 18. This is by 27. That's 18 by 27 deep. And the garage door will be that size, and the front door will be that size. It'll just like it, just 3 feet, 2 feet wide.
But, Mr. Chairman, a point I'd like to make is that, it's a special permit. He needs 4 votes for this not to be fatal. And, this goes to a vote tonight. But that's up to the petitioner, whether he'd like to make up new plans to move it over a few feet, or if he wants to go forward tonight.
Any other comments?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, in light of the discussion and the existing plan that's in front of us, and I guess through you, Mr. Chairman, to Joe, does this plan now change with the existing deck, with the removal of the stairs and the existing breezeway or deck that comes off the house that's going to be eliminated? Does that change the requirement of this plan now for submittal? If I'm looking at the plan and I see off the original structure, we have that 24-foot structure, if you will, that's being removed. Now this is going to be a one-structure plan. Is there a requirement for a new plan? Or is that something we can discuss and agree upon?
I guess it would be helpful to see something that shows that the steps are going to be removed and/or if there's going to be any new steps laid out. I don't think it necessarily affects the relief that's needed,
Right.
if that's your question. But for clarification, it would be helpful just to see where any new steps are going to be located and where anything that's existing is going to be removed, just that it's marked to be removed.
Okay. Thank you.
So, just based on what you just said, Joe, are you stating that we could work off of this document and note the changes that we see on what was submitted, and then I'll say if it was approved, for instance, that a new set of, or a revised set of plans would be submitted before any permits could start or something like that, to that
Yeah,
effect?
that could be a condition if the
Is that
board.
basically what you're saying, just so I understand?
Yeah,
Okay.
that could be a condition, yes.
Okay. So I guess the only other thing that I'll add, I didn't have as much, I'll call it discomfort with the 1 foot off the line. I hear what Corey said. I mean, I went by there and I sat right in front of your house just to check things out. I know the neighborhood anyways. It's not like I pulled up in front of that house 25 times before. But I was just trying to visualize what was going on there. But if I look at your whole lot, the way it's laid out, you pretty much have 5 feet on your neighbor. I don't know if you said your mother lives next door to you, but, you know, you got 4.6 feet
Yes.
boundary
that's
there, you got 5 feet with the submittal of the proposal, if I'm reading this right, correct, Dennis? Got 5 feet off. So I know I heard some of the board members talking about, I mean, the side yard requires 10. I know I'm not gonna say you need 10 feet. I mean, that's not gonna work on this lot here, but, I mean, I guess I would suggest if we wanna just make it look somewhat aesthetically pleasing and have equal boundary lines, that we make it either 4.6 also on that side or 5 feet. So I don't know what the board thinks about that based on the other changes here, so.
4.6 or 5 on the side yard setback?
Yeah, well, he's got 4.6 here, and if this is, I think he mentioned, you know, a relative on one side.
Yeah.
But I'm just looking at the way this is laid out. He doesn't have a very large lot to begin with.
Oh.
So if we want to make it at least look somewhat presentable, and I understand what Dennis was saying right up front about, you know, how close it is. And, but that would be, I guess, I would feel a little bit better about that, because I can understand the board members really aren't in the same thought process that I'm at, but that would be my thing. If we want to make it 4.6 or 5, I'd probably say the 4.6 on the side. New garage is going.
I would be okay with that.
Or 4.6, or, you know, somewhat less if somebody felt strong about that, but.
Through you, Mr. Chairman. As it relates to that fenced-in area where is being removed, the side setback has its own issues, but if, what is the approximate dimension from the end of the existing structure, I mean, the proposed structure, to that fence line? Is it 4 feet, 6 feet before that one-story overhang? What do you, just guesstimate, I mean,
Can you run that by one more time, from which part to which part?
if I'm looking at this proposed structure.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I know, I forgot you didn't have a plan. I'm looking at your proposed structure here.
Yes,
You're removing this fence line.
that's correct.
Guesstimate, what would be the amount, the footage from here to there?
From there would be about,
Roughly.
I want to give you a better number because I know more or less. 10 feet.
You're gonna have 10 feet there?
Yes. From here to here is 75 feet. If you take the garage being 24 and this is 5, that's 29. That gives me from here to the front of the driveway is 75 minus 29. 36, 46 feet. So I got 46 feet, but my math is 36. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah,
Just,
so whatever that distance is from there, that's how much room I have for the
that would be 46.9 minus the 20, so I think you're coming to about 32. And what's the height of this overhang?
This overhang is
10,
6 feet.
it's 6?
6 feet. It comes up to this to me, I'm about 5'5", so I might be a bit shy.
So would it be fair to say if we moved the garage deeper into the driveway, say 4 feet?
Forward?
Forward, coming into that kenneled space, I'll call it kenneled space because you referred to it that way. If we came into the drive, you're not losing any driveway space because this is already there. You're losing about 4 feet here. So if you came into there, that would give you more of a rear setback, which would be a good compromise in green space and open space.
Oh, definitely.
In my thought process. You're stuck on that, your number, I know you're adamant on the 20 feet, so what I'm trying to think of is if we can have some open, I'm looking for some open space and some green space. And I think if you move the garage forward, as a thought, then that would increase your rear setback from 5, if you bring it in 4 or even 5, it'll bring you 10. Not exactly what is a requirement, but it'll increase your green space. Have rear access from your deck coming around to the back of your yard. It's just a thought, because now this is all gone, it's primarily dead space. You're not gonna be able to park under there anyways if you have a 6-foot overhang. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
I know you have a Nissan Maxima now, but you might not always have that.
Moving it forward, I have no objection to that.
Okay, but what are we accomplishing on the 9 inches on the side yard? Are we bringing that over a little bit?
That's my next, I want to find out.
That's where the,
That's my only concern.
That's, you know, that's an issue as well. My thought process is to increase some green space and open space in the rear,
I see your goal. I think,
which then kind of gives us a little bit to look at, and then as it relates to the 1 foot or the 0.9, that's totally different at this point. I'm just trying to create a medium here with
Right.
some
No,
open,
I see.
with some open space.
no, you're trying to reach a
It's-
compromise.
Yeah, it's a very tight lot. We definitely want to see that existing garage move and be demolished. So I was just thinking, once that dead spot's gone, that there might be some opportunity there to,
I think, as the chairman stated, he's got 4.6 feet on the opposite side of the home. He's got 5 feet rear setback. I think Dennis was even not over crazy about it. I think he was comfortable with it. I think I'm comfortable with that, but it's 9 inches. That's the problem here, Mr. Lee. I think you realize that. I'd like to see you around 5 feet there as well, so you have 5 feet all around, 3/4 of your home. And
The, well, is it,
Sorry.
And hear what your thoughts are. Yep. Thank you. Yep.
I have nothing more to say. I have nothing more to add because you've heard what I've got to say. I've heard what every one of you gentlemen have had to say. So I have nothing more to add. If
Sure.
you
That's okay.
have,
Dennis, you got something?
I just feel like if we set the precedent that 9 inches, which is roughly the width of this piece of paper, is acceptable for your site, the neighbor could tear down his garage and rebuild his garage. And then you have a condition in that neighborhood where you have a setback that, at one time was 10 feet, and even when the things were built was almost 5 feet, and now we're looking at 2 garages attached to houses that are 20 inches apart, which is not even 2 feet.
Mr. McCarthy, we have a pre-existing condition right now. My garage is sitting on my neighbor's property. You seem to forget. That's pre-existing. I didn't do that. It was there. Had I known that was the case, I would not have bought that house.
It's a detached garage.
Yes.
And it's a small scale, and it's set back from the street, and it doesn't represent the same thing as an attached garage brought closer to the street as you're representing. But in addition,
We make that representation.
the garage that is there currently may not have been built with zoning, and we have zoning
I understand.
today.
I understand.
So there's a different set of rules today.
So who authorized this garage to be built on my neighbor's property is my question. What then? How do we rectify that? Can you snap your fingers and say my garage is back on my property? If you can do that, by all means, I'll be more than happy to fix the garage as it is.
If the garage was deeper than 24 feet, it would give you more storage space in the garage? Would that depth
Please.
usable? Because if the width is usable, the depth is also usable?
I think
I'm only offering, if you're not interested, you're not interested. I'm only offering as a suggestion.
you have your wants, your desires. We have our wants and desires. Simple as that, Mr. McCarthy. And I'm asking for each and every one of you to put yourself in my shoes here.
Mr. Chairman, can I say something, sir?
Absolutely, Pam.
By listening to all my colleagues and the petitioner, I do agree that the current garage is in violation. It's on the abutter's property, and Mr. Lee said himself that Mr. Granger is not opposed to this petition, opposed to this plan. I know some of the board members are some say 4 or 5 feet from the property. They want some says 3. Others are fine. But as it exists right now, I think the current plan it's a vast improvement on what is there right now. Safety is a big issue with me, and his neighbors don't have any issues with it. So, like I said before, I will support this petition. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments?
Through you, Mr. Chairman. To the petitioner, Mr. Lee. If you're looking for space in your garage for your vehicle, wood shop, storage, and the like, and you have that kenneled space, if there was a reduction in the width and an increase in the length, have you thought of that option? I know you didn't come in here tonight with options. I certainly agree with Mr. Peck in the fact that it is a safety violation in the concerns and its existing structure that you had no control over. However, I know some of the board members are concerned about precedent, and that's something we have to always take in consideration. My thought is if you're looking for square footage, if you had a width reduction but a length increase, have you thought of that?
I have. When I built my brother's garage, it was 18 by 27. I didn't like to work with the depth of it. I just want to keep it 24.
Oh, you didn't like the
To work with the
27
length.
feet?
I had to extend the lumber. It just cost much more money. That's all.
Good point. Okay, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
So, Joe, I have a question for you. If I go to 4.5.7, which is what do you have that in front of you?
I don't have my
Oh, all right.
zoning code in front of me, but
The second sentence says, "The floor area, ground coverage, number of stories, and height of the structure in existence before the demolition shall delimit the maximum permissible size and shape of the rebuilt structure." So am I to read that as it has to be the same size? Or I'm just reading the sentence.
yeah, I mean, it should be the same size when the board is considering it under that special permit. That's an example. An example would be when a structure gets burnt down, a non-conforming structure, say a house caught on fire. Somebody can rebuild that within a year under that special permit, or if it has to come down, they can rebuild under that special permit, so long as they maintain the same dimensions. That includes height, length, and width, so all 3 dimensions. So again, that's usually more when you're considering the same footprint, same foundation, say. In this case, you have the structure moving because of the issue with the property line, so that's where it kind of fluctuates.
I just want to make sure when I read this that,
normally
there's no issue for this board if obviously the proposed new structure is larger than the pre-existing
that's correct,
one.
right.
But, I
Right.
mean,
The issue
know
this
that.
time, was the not utilizing the same foundation.
Yeah, it's just when I look at that section, it talks to that, and then it talks about the historic board thing. It's kind of like not too conflicting. I'm just trying to put it all together so that,
Right,
we make a decision that's, is within the bounds of what we're looking at here. Well, I gotta admit, this has gone much longer than I really envisioned for a garage to be added, but it just shows the somewhat complexity of this. So this is special permit, and Joe, the petitioner would need, in this case, would need at least 4 out of 5, is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, I guess maybe I'll ask for the last time, are there any other comments from any of the board members? Because I believe if I have everything put together here, we have a plan before us which shows 0.9 inches off the next door neighbor here at 396 Pine Street. We've talked about a change to the deck, removing the existing stairs and relocating them, I'll say, in the middle of the deck to go to the backyard. We talked about the existing, I guess I'll call it the back porch or side porch with stairs that lead down into the existing, I guess, driveway area, being used as the access area from the house into the new proposed garage. We talked about taking away the existing area that the petitioner uses to, I guess I'll call it, contain his dog. I don't think there's anything else, so.
Actually, Mr. Chairman, if I could just, one last thing.
Go ahead, absolutely.
That point that you're bringing up about the reconstruction for 4.5.7, by approving this larger footprint that's attached to the house, rather than, that's significantly larger by over 10%, it seems like it would be a variance, because it would be within the setback.
Right, I mean, I'm kind of struggling with that now. It was another colleague that reviewed this petition of mine. I don't know if perhaps he thought it wouldn't need a variance or what his reasons might have been. I'm not entirely sure. It's something we could review again if the board wished to see. To be honest, I'm not entirely sure if it should have filed for a variance as well or not.
Now, if this is denied, Joe, hypothetically speaking, now, what happens here? He's got a dilapidated garage, a safety issue. Can he take it down, or what happens?
Yeah, I mean, it could be taken down. The issue would be, again, to get a permit to rebuild if the applicant so desired to rebuild a garage.
On the existing footprint?
Right. They would have to file a repetitive petition with this board, as well as the planning board. Both boards would have to deem that it's a substantial change from what was applied for before, and then it would have to go through another separate public hearing.
Just to be clear, then the existing garage is roughly 300 square feet and the proposed is 480, so it's over 50% larger than the existing garage. So that clearly indicates something more than special permit to me by that, but just do the math.
Well,
We're more than, I mean, we
guess
can
based
we can
on
look
what
at it again.
Joe's saying, and your comments, Dennis, that's why when I kind of reread that section, I was just trying to, it sounds to me like we need to continue it. This isn't because of you, Mr. Lee, this is how we're starting to look at this whole petition. So Joe, could we get a decision? Now, if we get a decision from DPD and we continue it to our next, I'd like to have it to the next meeting because, you know,
yeah, we could
to be fair to this gentleman here, and it's decided that a variance should have been special permit and variance, or variance only. Will we review that and then take a vote on that at the next meeting, or do we have to kind of?
It depends on if a variance should have been submitted. Then we would have to send another mailing out to abutters. If we are able to determine that, you know, prior to the next meeting, we can get them out, but the board's still gonna make a decision because it will have had to have been out for 14 days.
Okay.
But if it comes back that it doesn't need a variance, then the board can take action at the next meeting.
Okay, Mr. Lee, so what we're gonna have to do is continue this because we need a further assessment from Department of Planning and Development over the type of petition this was. It was for a special permit. They're going to take another look at it to see if should have been a variance, for instance. I'm not gonna say that much more about it because there's really not much more to say. So we're gonna continue it. And when you do come back, we'll have it as a continuance, so you'll be first on the list, so you won't be having to sit there and listen. But we definitely got to have DPD take a second look at this, and then we'll discuss it at that point. So, Joe, does Mr. Lee, in the next 2 weeks, is there anything else he needs to do or should do or think about doing? What about the changes we talked to the plan? Is that something he could at least update, or do we not pursue that right now and wait for the variance decision?
I guess part of that depends on what the board would like to see and what Mr. Lee would like to see. If some of the things the board's talked about, Mr. Lee is amenable to, then some revised plans could help for the board's review for the next meeting. But it's not necessarily required at this point.
All right, well, I'm not going to require it then. If it's not required, I'm going to, instead of having Mr. Lee do anything additionally, I think he's heard everything tonight that we've talked about. Okay, so Mr. Lee, we're going to take a vote to continue this. What's the next meeting date, Joe?
August 26th.
8/26, okay. So we're going to continue it to August 26th, Mr. Lee. What's that?
Right, we'll review it and see if a variance is required. If not, then the board can take further action that night. If a variance was required and advertisement needs to take place, then we can advertise for the variance, and the board will have to essentially continue to the next meeting again, which would be the September 9th meeting.
Can I say something?
Through you, Mr.
When I
Chairman.
first went to submit the application, I did want to submit for a variance. I was asked that this was probably the best route.
I mean,
Here I
it's
am.
possible Aaron Clausen could have reviewed it and found that it didn't need a variance. I didn't review this application myself, he did. And it was his suggestion to file for the special permit.
Kathy suggested that as well, too.
Kathy Murphy is our zoning officer.
Did you say something?
Through you, Mr. Chairman. My only concern at this point, that the petitioner's here in front of us for a special permit. Conversation and concerns that this turns into a variance, that he essentially is almost would he be 6 weeks out? Maybe 2 weeks out for a continuance, and if it was found for variance, he'd be another 2 weeks out. To me, it just seems, is there any possible, we'd have to continue it to make a vote on it as a variance. So we'd have to do 2 meetings out, trying to see if there's any elimination of that because of time.
I guess another alternative could be that if the board took action on the special permit tonight, we could review if a variance was additionally necessary, have Mr. Lee file for that variance, and we just have to not issue a building permit until the variance, assuming the board was comfortable with the proposal with any conditions that it might seem fit, would then have to take action on the variance. But That's a possibility.
So essentially, they could not run simultaneously, they'd have to,
I'm just trying to think of different
yeah, I'm just
possibilities
trying to
here.
reduce the amount of time in meetings and, just trying to clarify and without having, a continuance and then another meeting, just
Right.
at this point with that being brought up, in fairness to the petitioner.
I have one other problem. The 4.5.7 states that it's a catastrophe or demolition, and the building's not demolished. So I don't know how that even applies anyway.
Well, the special permit you're supposed to apply for before demolition.
I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay, but what would happen here is if comes back as a variance, the petition will only need 3 votes out of 5, whereas now it's a special permit, he needs 4 votes out of 5.
You need 4 out of 5 for both.
For
A
both.
special permit and a variance, yeah. Both types of permits need 4 out of 5. They're just different review criteria.
Mr. Chairman, I think what Mr. Jenner suggested was probably the best course of action. We vote on the special permit tonight, and, through the review process, if they find that Mr. Lee needs a variance, then that's another course of action down the road. But I think voting on tonight, it's probably a good option. Thank you.
Well, if this board wants to decide to vote on the special permit this evening, I think I laid out what we'd be voting on. I just want to make it clear that each of the members, if we do vote, that the .9 is what was on the plan, and we've discussed or not discussed, if we're changing that or not changing it. So I just want to make it perfectly clear, it's .9 on the special permit. We have not made a change to that. If this board wants to vote on a special permit tonight, I don't have a problem with that. But I think I really haven't heard that, so if anybody wants to chime in. If you don't want to chime in, then I guess we'll take a vote.
I'm with you, Mr. Chairman, that I think we need clarification here, but if we want to, I could go either way. I think you know how I feel about it, but I think we've belabored this for a long time.
Now, there's already, on the .9 side of there's already a natural buffer there of bushes, correct? That pretty much goes the length of the driveway?
Yes. It's about 2 feet wide, the bush.
Corey, that natural buffer is on someone else's property, and that someone else could do anything with that natural buffer, like pave it.
He's not gonna get rid of that. He likes that bush.
He's
My wife-
not going to live forever either. None of us are.
True.
Now, Mr. Lee, once again, before we go into a vote, you're not open to lengthen it, shorten the width, and a few more feet in the length?
Do you wish to shorten the width and lessen the depth of the garage at
You'd
all?
still have the same amount of square feet. We're not taking any less square feet. Yeah, whatever you lose on the width, you can add to the length, and I think we'd be out of here.
Like I was mentioned to Mr. Perrin earlier, having worked with a number of garages in the past, I'd like to stick with the 24 depth for the sake of the lumber.
A width of a car is 8 feet, 10 feet. That's,
If you ask me to increase the length of the depth of the garage from
Right.
24, so I can compensate for the width of it, I have to make that longer. I
okay.
have to extend that lumber. I already have a set plan in mind that I like to use. With this, I would be saving about $1,800. So I'd like to go that route, if that's okay with everyone. I'm sure we all like to save some money.
I understand.
Got 4 boys.
But your
Help me
your
out.
friend's garage doesn't pertain.
I understand.
It's case by case. Every house is different, and it doesn't mean it's okay.
Of course.
And I'd love to see you with a breezeway in a garage. I really do. But I think, geez, it'd be nice for a little compromise here. It'd be nice to see so you can, you know, enjoy your garage for many years to come.
I understand. Thank you. We stand as it is.
Okay. So we're in agreement, going to take a vote on the special permit? Okay. All right, so can I have a motion on the special permit, please?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, the matter before us, ZB 2013-24 at 87 Sanders Ave for a special permit. I make a motion to approve the following conditions. A new set of plans are submitted to
Yep.
indicate the new structure of stairs on the deck and the removal of the existing 24-foot structure of stairs.
And did you mention the front?
And also the removal of the existing fenced-in area that's used for petitioners' pets.
I have a second?
Second motion?
I have a roll call?
Mr. Bailey?
Approved.
Mr. Belanger?
Approve.
Mr. McCarthy?
Deny?
Mr. Peck?
Approve.
Mr. Perrin?
Approve.
Okay, Mr. Lee, you've been approved for the special permit. And Joe, we're still going to reconvene in 2 weeks, right? Or not?
Not necessarily for this petition, if no variance is required. I mean, there's nothing necessarily to follow up on, so this wouldn't necessarily be on the
Okay,
agenda.
I thought, all right, so the special permit got voted on tonight, so we don't have to entertain the variance? The
Not-
department doesn't have to look at the variance issue, or is that gone?
We can review it if there was an issue. It seems like it's already been looked at once before, but if there was a variance needed, then it's going to have to be re-advertised and additional public hearing will have to be held on the variance.
Okay. All right, so we won't have to see Mr. Lee in 2 weeks, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so Mr. Lee, you've been approved with the special permit. Wish you the best of luck with your project. Just make sure you get those changes
We will.
put on this and sent into Joe's office.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
Thank you, gentlemen of the board.
Yep, thank you. Okay, our next order of business is the minutes for approval from July 8th and July 22nd of 2013. Any comments in regards to the minutes for those 2 dates? Hearing none, I guess we'll wait for Joe. So Joe, we'll take a vote for the, going to take a vote for approval of the minutes for July 8th and 3rd?
22nd.
22nd.
So could I have a motion to approve?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the minutes from our July 8th, 2013 meeting and July 22nd, 2013 meeting.
A second?
Second the motion.
Roll call?
Mr. Bailey?
Approved.
Mr. Belanger?
Approve.
Mr. McCarthy?
Approve?
Mr. Peck?
Approve.
Mr. Perrin?
Approve.
Okay, any other comments? Hearing none. I appreciate everybody's input this evening, considering everything we had to take a look at. And with that, make a motion to adjourn.
Second the motion.
So moved.